All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Creator's Kit. This is our brand new series for the Underground Circuit podcast, where I am sitting down with yours and my favorite content creators, photographers, social media people, journalists, etc., and walking them through their creative process and the tools that they use to make it possible. This morning, I am with Jamey Price. He is a photographer for, I think, genuinely every piece of motorsport there is. I was watching your YouTube channel a little bit, and your trailer that you have on there, you just like started listing off all these series that you have been a part of, and it was really, really cool. But Jamey, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. Can you give us a little blurb about yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Jamey Price. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have been covering motorsport professionally since 2011-ish. So I've kind of had the opportunity and experience to go all over the world. I've been to 30 different countries on 4 continents. I'll be adding a 5th continent and another country in a couple weeks' time. So very excited, but I get to do some amazing stuff and be around some amazing race cars. And I'm basically, like, if you really boil it down, I'm just a motorsport fan. I was always a motorsport fan from a very early young age, and somehow lucked into working in the motorsport industry.
Right.
So I've covered Formula One, I've covered Le Mans, I've covered World Endurance Championship events, I've covered almost over a decade of IMSA WeatherTech, which was previously American Le Mans and Grand Am. I've covered NASCAR, IndyCar, MotoGP. I've covered sports car racing like GT World Challenge. I've covered drag racing, and it's really cool to be able to like say that I've dipped my toes into so many different types of things, and it's I love it. I love motor racing. I love the whole atmosphere at races, and it's a cool job.
It looks incredible. I mean, like I just said, that plethora of series and specs that you've been a part of is just absolutely incredible. I have to say, though, I was on your Threads profile the other day, and you posted this picture, I think, like 2 or 3 days ago, and it's you saying that you've gotten sprayed with champagne by Lewis Hamilton while Justin Bieber watched. And out of all the amazing, fantastical things that you've done in motorsports, I immediately was like, I think that's the coolest. I think that's such a unique and cool experience. It was awesome to see that photo.
Yeah, really, that was from Monaco. I think it was 2016 actually, and you know, I think that was the year that Daniel Ricciardo was leading and probably should have won the race, and Lewis won it instead. But that was like, you know, I miss the old Monaco where they had that podium that was basically right down on the track, and the drivers would come down and celebrate with their team. They've since changed the podium, so it's no longer quite like that. But you know, I have some like really cool little memories and things like that I will have with me forever. That, you know, Lewis Hamilton sprayed me. He did a pretty good job of avoiding. It wasn't me specifically that he was spraying, but his mechanics were like right behind me, and I didn't realize that until it was kind of too late to move. So you just you're like, well, here we go. Hope for the best. And champagne and camera gear never go well together.
I can imagine so. Yeah.
I have a lot of experience knowing that, and so you just like, well, oh well, but it's worth the maybe potential damage to the camera gear for that picture, and it's all insured anyway. But yeah, he just sprayed his mechanics who were right behind me, and I just happened to be in the way, and his friend Justin Bieber was there watching on.
That was like the little tagline at the end that made me crack up too, because you were like, oh, I've been sprayed with champagne by Lewis Hamilton, and then literally at the end it's just, while Justin Bieber watched. I'm like, the fact that that's just like a little annotation at the end it killed me. But
you gotta love
great
that
photo.
one.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Well, like I said, this is the Creator's Kit. Jamey, I had asked you to bring with you 3 to 5 tools. This could be software or hardware that you use to help you create and capture content. Obviously, you are a photographer. So we're going to move through the creative process. I have listed this creative process as capture, organize, edit, publish, and analyze. So we're going to kind of move through that flow and talk about the tools and tech that you use to make that possible. So starting with capture, obviously, like I said, you're a photographer. Capture may seem a little, pretty easy. But do you have a piece of tech for capture, or is it pretty straightforward?
Pretend I'm holding my gigantic lens. It's at the media center in Daytona, and my days kind of changed around a little bit. But the capture side of my job is really the side that's really the most important for sports photography. Most of the heavy lifting on what we're creating is done like while I'm actually standing trackside taking a picture. There are creators and there are photographers that do a lot of post-processing and all of that stuff where you're creating an image after the fact. And with sports photography, it doesn't really work that way. It doesn't benefit you to have to create something on your laptop later. So most of us that when we're trackside, when we're covering a race, I'm in Daytona right now covering what will be the Rolex 24-hour race. My clients will be demanding pictures of me multiple times during the day. So it's not just like a, grab a shot and we'll see it next week kind of thing.
Right.
It needs to be multiple uploads during the race event, and that's even more true for Formula One, particularly where we are delivering pictures, live from where we're standing. So I use mirrorless technology cameras. They're all kind of the same, whether you're using Canon, Nikon, Sony. They all pretty much work the same. And then when it comes to lenses are really the most important thing when it comes to sports photography, especially because, a lot of what people see that they like in a picture wasn't done by the camera. It was done by the lens, like the depth of field. And, when you see all the pretty, where you see the car and the background is blown out a little bit, or it's hyper focused on the driver, and you can't necessarily see that it's China or Malaysia or Singapore or whatever racetrack you're at. A lot of that is done just through the lens and not the camera. The camera is just kind of capturing what the lens is seeing. So we carry a lot of different types of lenses around. Like I'll have wide angle lenses to do, like Monaco is a great example where you need those super long lenses that get you right up in the driver's face as they're coming out of the tunnel, but you also need a really wide lens to be able to see the whole Monaco Harbor, the atmosphere, the marshals standing inches away from the cars as they're whizzing by. Right. You have to have those different types of lenses to be able to capture that. And, the shutter speeds and things that we use vary. People always ask me in my comments, what shutter speed do you use for motorsport?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is literally I've used every single shutter speed that my camera can do. From 30-second exposures where, especially it doesn't really work for Formula One, but for endurance racing where you see, brake lights and different lights on the cars, you see light trails. I'll put my camera on a tripod and do a 30-second exposure with fireworks or, the car's going through a corner. So you have 30-second exposures, and then you also have those types of pictures where the cars are coming past you at literally 220 miles an hour. Right. And if you're shooting at 1/1000th, you're basically panning the car. So the car won't even be sharp in the picture. You need it to be frozen sharp at 1/8000th or 1/10,000th. So you kind of use a lot of different types of settings to capture what you're needing to capture, but every single corner that I go to, every single day that I'm working, I'm not using necessarily the same settings because the light changes. This isn't a studio, it's a racetrack that's outside in the sun, and sometimes you'll get a cloudy day or it's raining, and then the next day is bright and sunny. So even if I go to the same corner and do the same picture, I'm using different settings because I'm having to compensate for the natural light and using a flash is almost irrelevant and pointless in motorsport photography. There are some cases where it is useful, but generally not. So
nice.
yeah.
I can imagine that the lens are doing, like you said, it's about 90% of the lens is doing the work for you. So you touched on you're delivering live like photos essentially to your clients and everything. I've heard about cameras before that have like internet connectivity and then can download or upload those files to a location like right as you take them. Do you use any of that? Is that possible at a racetrack when you're outside? Like, are you connected to the internet and just uploading them live? How does that function?
Yeah, we do use it, and I use it for almost every type of racing that I cover. So there's a couple different ways you can make this type of thing happen, and it's not new technology. Like, we've been using this same type of system for as long as I've been covering Formula One, essentially.
Right.
So, it's really nice and easy now that your phone is essentially a hotspot. So you can create an internet connection from your phone that is broadcasting an internet signal that your camera is now able to natively pick up. So all of the major camera brands, are able to, especially the professional bodies. I can't necessarily speak for the prosumer stuff, but the professional bodies are all able to connect to the internet. And we're going to then be able to have that camera, you'll set it up with the FTP server that we need to send it to. There's a lot of different types of everybody kind of has a different system for it. But with our particular setup, we'll be connected to the hotspot. It then goes to a person that's sitting in England, which is where the editor that works for the agency that I work for, that's where he's working from. So no matter where we are in the world, whether we're in Asia or Miami or Las Vegas or Australia, it doesn't matter. He's working the same hours that we are. So if we're up at 8 a.m. and at the track getting the drivers and Lewis Hamilton walking in the morning, our editor is awake wherever in England, so whatever time it is in England, he's then getting those images coming straight to his server from 4 or 5 of us. So we'll be sending lots of different pictures of the drivers walking in, and then you'll have the start of practice sessions, the grid, race starts, all of those things are live delivery kind of needs. And then the other interesting side of it that the teams are using is for damage assessment, tire management. Damage assessment is one that sports car teams use a lot. That, if you're running a 24-hour race and you make a pit stop, it can cost you your race. The 24 hours of Le Mans, the last, I don't even know how many years in a row, has been won by a margin of less than a minute or so.
Yeah, it's been very close recently. Yes, yeah.
So, and that's that's the amazing thing about endurance racing, is that somehow at the end of a 24-hour race, the cars are still quite close together. There's been larger Formula One winning margins than, quite regularly than there are in some of these super long endurance races. So if you have a team that makes contact with another car, Toyota had a funny one a couple of years ago where they hit a squirrel or a groundhog or a rabbit or something.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And it hit this animal doing 220 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight. And obviously it doesn't end well for the animal, but it also didn't end well for the car either, because it blew a hole in the front splitter of the Toyota, and they couldn't tell how bad this hole was. They knew that they were losing performance, but they couldn't necessarily see how bad the damage itself was. So they sent me, because I work with another photographer, and together we cover the Toyota Le Mans program. So, I'm out trackside. It's shortly after sunrise, and we get a text message on our engineering WhatsApp channel for Toyota, and they're like, "Hey, we've got a problem here. We just hit something. We need damage assessment." And that happens every single race that I've covered. So they're leaning on us to be able to show them what the car is looking like. If there's damage to a certain part of the car, they can see. There's various ways, or there's various reasons to need that, because sometimes it's a performance thing, but there's also going to be the potential from the series that your car is no longer safe to be operating because there's something hanging off the back of it, or it no longer has brake lights. The number plate, like I heard a good story from the World Endurance Championship race in Bahrain or Qatar last year where the Porsche didn't know if their number plate was like fully operational or not.
Oh.
And so they called on their photographer, like, we need a shot of the left side of the car, like right now. And so the photographer was able to deliver that in real time to their team, and the team could figure out like exactly what was wrong. They brought the car in because if you don't have a working number plate or it's not lit up, then they'll black flag you. And so they need to have, and it can't be a surprise. So they need to know that this is going to be a problem.
Yes.
So the live delivery thing is something that we've probably been doing for like pretty seriously for the last 10 years or so, where the teams really lean on it for tire management in Formula One, because we can't see the tires in sports car racing. They're covered by the wheel arches, but in Formula One, you can see all the degradation on the tire. And the teams really use that quite a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so funny, like learning more in-depth details and everything, because having like you delivering information to the teams like that is something that would never occur to me. Like in just watching you do what you do, like through the TV, it's just like, oh, he's a photographer, he's taking photos and everything, it's not an informational process for the teams as well, which I think is super unique. So we kind of started moving into it with that question, but to organize all of the photos and everything that you take, is there one piece of software that you enjoy using? Is it physical, like SSDs? What do you mainly use, your go-to solution to organize and hold all of the pictures that you take? Because I'm sure it's thousands upon thousands of pictures you take in a weekend.
It's a lot. Like, I mean, for example, the 24 hours of Daytona, I think the number of images that I hit last year was probably between 25 and 30,000 pictures over the course of, like, let's call it like 8 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m., 5 p.m. -ish.
Right.
And I know that seems insane, but when you really like divide, 30,000 or let's call it like 25,000 by a 35-hour day, like it's not that many per hour. Like, it's still a lot, but I'm not just like sitting on the shutter all day long. So you have thousands and thousands of images that we're creating. And so what do you do with all those pictures? You basically, I'll come back, I'll pop my Lexar memory cards back into my computer, into the card reader, and I use a program called Photo Mechanic. And Photo Mechanic is a great program that I've used for my entire career. And I learned to use it when I was working with a newspaper back 15 years ago. And basically it's like kind of like a digital Lightroom, not like the Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom. Like, it's like the actual digital Lightroom where you would look at slides of film and you would say, like, this is one I want, this is the one I don't want, this is, you can look at it in a way that makes it easy to look at. And that's what their goal was. And there's most sports photographers, I would say, use this program or something very similar to it. Okay. Where we'll pop it in, we'll pop our memory cards in, and then it's pulling up essentially what is a JPEG preview. Even if you're shooting RAW files, like there's two different types of files that cameras shoot, so you have JPEGs and RAWs. Even if you're shooting a RAW file, your camera still creates a lower resolution JPEG file for each RAW file that it creates. So the Photo Mechanic program is looking at the JPEG preview, so it's not having to read all of the information off of a RAW image, which is they're huge images. Like, they're
RAW's a lot,
uncompressed. They're like almost 100 megabytes at this point.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of processing power for your computer to have to deal with, like 30,000 raw images sitting in front of it, which is something my computer's not able to do. There's not really any computer that is. Yeah. So it's looking at it's looking at the JPEG preview of the images that you've created, and you can then really quickly flip through as fast as your fingers will move on the keyboard. You can flip through and color tag pictures, and you basically have 8 or 9 color tag options. So I can choose from, the best to the least important based on what my needs are, what my clients' needs are, all of that kind of stuff. So Photo Mechanic is how we then color tag, make sure that those pictures are sharp, more or less how we want them to look. And it's not editing software at all. It's purely organizational, color tagging, sorting. So you can't do any edits with Photo Mechanic. It is purely a digital Lightroom that allows you to look at high volumes of pictures in a more efficient way than Lightroom allows you to do, like like the Adobe Lightroom.
Right, so you're literally just like flipping through images and saying pretty much like good, bad, good, like, and then sorting that way. That's really unique. I like that it's that really kind of like dialed in use case of like what you said.
It's very simple, and it works really. It's not simple at all, but it is a simple it is a simple thing that we're doing, and there's that. It's more important to have your organization or have the pictures that you need classed in some kind of way instead of all just in like the Lightroom catalog on Lightroom Classic, like where it's all just like blah. And I know that Lightroom can do that, but the way that it's actually reading the images is slower and less efficient for your computer than Photo Mechanic does. And then Photo Mechanic also allows you, if you're having to do any captioning where, Lewis Hamilton drives his Mercedes or Ferrari F126 or whatever it is. Right. You can create whatever caption template you want, and Photo Mechanic will read that caption template. It can be customized to each person, which is cool.
Make it whatever you want, yeah.
So I'll do captions on some of the pictures. Mainly we leave that to our editor, but with sports car racing, some of the other stuff that I'm covering, we do have to put captions on it, and so I'll do captions on my pictures, and then it's also the Photo Mechanic program has an FTP uploader, so you can upload your pictures to where they need to go, whether it's client folders to all that type of stuff. So it does serve more of a purpose than just like it, don't like it, like it, don't like it, like it, don't like it.
Okay. So when you mentioned the Photo Mechanic has the FTP transfer and everything on it. When you go to a race and you're meeting with clients and everything, like, are you meeting with, like, I'm going to like generalize it here, but like their IT team and pretty much being like, hey, here's the folder location that you have to dump to? Do you know that ahead of time? Like, how does that process get kind of set up?
It depends client to client. Some of them will say, here's where it needs to go. I work with Lamborghini, and they have a system that they use that this is where all the pictures need to get uploaded to from this particular race. Okay. So that works pretty well. That I kind of like it when a client has their own system to handle. It gets complicated when every single client has their own system, and you're like, oh God, I can't remember.
What do I do?
Right, like I don't remember where this needs to go. And, when I'm fully functioning at, 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning before the race starts, like that's great. But at 3 or 4 in the morning when we're in the middle of a 24-hour or I've been awake for 30 hours, it's a little bit harder where your brain doesn't like fire on all cylinders. So you're trying to remember, but it mainly comes down to me where I'm uploading those pictures, and the IT department for X client has nothing to do with it. It's generally the marketing people and the PR side that we are dealing with. So the marketing side is going to tell us, like, this is the shot list for the weekend, and we need you to hit these different things. Right. And and then once we kind of complete that, maybe they're satisfied, maybe not. But we'll upload to where we've all mutually agreed that this is where the pictures will go. They have that link before the weekend starts, or hopefully at very worst, before the race starts.
Right. Very nice. Okay. So, all right. So, jumping from organization in photo mechanic to editing. Say it's a couple days past the race weekend now. You're looking back through your photos and everything. Are you doing any sort of like major editing? Like, what does that look like for you? Are you using Adobe Lightroom to edit photos?
Yeah, so I do use Lightroom, the classic Lightroom, not the
Yes.
mobile version. So because, like I was saying earlier, that most of what we're doing as sports photographers needs to be done, and I'm speaking generally, but this is
Yeah.
me, like, and this is how most like deadline sports photographers would work. You can't Photoshop unicorns and rainbows into your pictures. It has to be done. It has to be done like in the camera, through the lens, through choosing the
Right.
shutter speeds, choosing the exposure that you see something happening in front of you, and you need to capture it in a way that you don't have to spend an hour after the fact editing it. And so
Right.
I will make the picture that I want. I'll ingest the cards. I'll choose it in Photo Mechanic, and then, when I pull it into Lightroom, that selection of pictures, like let's say I've color tagged Lamborghini stuff or Cadillac Formula One or whatever your
Right.
client is. I've color tagged that as one color. I'll pull that color, those priority images into Lightroom. Lightroom will then open it up, and then I'll look at those pictures and do minor adjustments. Like I'm talking maybe crop angle adjust, like maybe I
Right.
shot it a little bit like kind of horizon tilted, and not necessarily on purpose. It's just I'm standing there, it's uneven ground,
Yes.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I'll horizon adjust or create the crop that I think it should be for that picture, but I'm not going to do like the art of cropping where you take something, like this and you
Yeah.
turn it into like that. That doesn't really work for bigger clients because they need the full resolution image to be able to do whatever they need to do with it.
Right.
So
That makes sense. Okay.
I'll do like a minor crop adjustment. I'll maybe adjust the contrast a little bit. Color, I'm not gonna crank the saturation, but our cameras see, like, they have a white balance system that the sensor is looking at the world, and your eyes and your brain process things very differently than a camera would. So
Right.
you'll see something at night. Our eyes are processing fluorescent lights like really well, but cameras don't. Cameras see fluorescent lights as like something from an alien world, and they're having to like figure out what's the color of the light source, but then what about your subject? And those are two
Right.
totally separate things. So I'll adjust the white balance a little bit if needed, but nothing crazy. Minor exposure adjustment, and all of this is happening. Like I'm explaining it 100 times longer than what I'm gonna do, and
Right.
I'm looking at each picture for maybe 3 to 5 seconds, like literally 10 seconds at most. Where if I am spending longer than that, if I have a pile of 150 to 200 pictures of selects, not the Photo Mechanic raw,
Right.
7,000 from like Sunset this coming weekend at Rolex 24. That 7,000 gets whittled down to like, okay, I've got 75 client images that are really what I want to like process. And if I take 75 images, or let's just say 100 images to keep it mathematically easy, if I take 100 images and I work on those 100 images for 1 minute each, that's 100 minutes of just sitting there in front of my computer while the race is happening. That's over, that's like a decent fraction of the race that I'm sitting there in front of my computer. That doesn't work. Like I need to be out covering the race or working with my clients. Like they've got a pit stop. They need help with the damage assessment, or, it's sunset or sunrise, or pick your important part of the race. But if I'm
Right.
sitting at my laptop, like it actually happened a couple of years ago where we were at Le Mans, and it didn't look like it was going to rain, but we're all kind of like, I think it's okay for a little bit. And if it's going to rain, you want to be out in the rain because that's the story of the race. And your clients
Yes.
are all going to be like, we're in the rain. Like, oh my God, it's
Right.
raining.
Yeah.
And so we're all in the media center and processing images. And we look up at the TV screen and it's dumping, like absolutely dumping. And we're
Just
like,
downpours.
oh, yeah. And we're all sitting in front of our computer. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll like, you kind of finish what you're doing and then you go out. But it can happen even, if you're not really aware of your time or what you're doing or how long you've spent doing something, you can really miss important parts of the race.
Right.
So there's a huge time management side of it, that it is important to not just be sitting in front of your computer like hunched over
Yeah.
creating. Like, I don't like when people create an image that wasn't there because
Yeah.
in motorsport photography that doesn't work. Like if you want to do that next Wednesday, like sure, go for it.
Right.
We're all gonna see that it's an image you created and not made,
Right.
off standing trackside. We're all gonna like judge you for it. But it's definitely like it's no longer photography when you're just adding rainbows and unicorns and sun
Right.
flare. Something that wasn't there, didn't happen, wasn't like that. Like you're creating that image. You don't have time to do that. Sitting in the media center during the race when your clients are on track and the race, like a Formula One race, is an hour and a half long. If you do an edit in the middle of a Formula One race, you had better be fast
Yeah.
at doing your edits because you're going to miss a significant portion of the
Yeah.
race. Just sitting there, even if you're doing it trackside on your phone, like if somebody's doing social media for a team, like, and they're pulling pictures to their phone, which is what some people do. Like if you're doing that for 10, 15 minutes, you've missed a quarter of the race, like
Right.
literally just
Yeah,
standing
that's
there.
what.
So
When you said the 100 minutes, my mind went to a 2 hour Formula One race, and I was like, yeah, you're missing more than half of the race, like by sitting
like,
there. Yeah.
yeah. So you need to be a very proficient photographer making the image that you want to make when you're actually taking the picture with the correct settings so that when you get it into Lightroom, which is your editing software, you're not
Yes.
creating a new image, you're just polishing what
You're doing a
you've
little
already
touch-up.
done just
Right.
a little bit, and you're making it the way, like maybe everybody has a little bit of a different style. Like my style is probably a little bit more contrast heavy than some people, but
Right.
not massively so. But that's just how I see the world. I see the world in highlights and shadows and contrast and all that stuff. That's just how I see the world. But
Right.
not everybody does. So you create your own bit of editing, like that's your style, and you then send that on to your client so that your client has the pictures that they need. But regardless, I can't spend 100 minutes every 4 hours after I've been trackside during a 24-hour, just for example. Like I can't spend 100 minutes every 4 hours creating images that
Right.
like this doesn't work. So I will do what I need to do in 3 to 5 seconds at most, so that 100
Right.
minutes only becomes like maybe 20 when I'm
Yes,
sitting
yeah.
there like actually doing the work, doing the processing, and all that.
Very nice, very nice. Well, so I'm gonna group our last two stages together with publish and analyze, because we kind of talked about publish. It's during real live races and everything. You're just dumping it right to your clients, what they need, and where they specify it to go. Do you do any sort of post race analysis, or if you're, I'm going to use Daytona as an example. If you're going back to Daytona next year, are you then looking at this year's photos and being like, I really liked this corner, or I really liked this location, okay, these are the settings that I had for it? Is there any sort of like post-race analysis that you do to then, quote unquote, do better next time?
Absolutely, but it doesn't necessarily happen. Like it maybe should when it's fresh in my mind, but like sometimes I
Right.
will take notes and I'll like write myself like an iPhone note on
Yes,
Daytona
yeah.
of like I really like this corner at this time of day. But to be honest with you, most of the that type of thing that I'm like looking post event looking at my images happens the following year when
Okay.
I'll be getting ready to go to Daytona, because for us it's a great problem to have, but
Yeah.
with motorsport photography, I'm already like when the race ends, when the checkered flag flies, I'm already almost looking straight to the next race weekend that I'm having to cover, or the next thing that I'm having to do. So when I'm done with Daytona this coming weekend, my next thing is I drive home on Monday morning, and I'm in Canada on Wednesday morning.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I get basically I get 24 hours at home to like see my wife, hug my kids, be a dad, send invoices, and all of that has to happen before I leave again and pack for another trip on Wednesday morning. So I don't really take a lot of time to like go back through what I've done necessarily, and so I can do it again better for next year. But there is some element of that if it's like really notable, something that I need to remember this. Like,
you need to like make a note of it.
Right. But for when I'm getting ready to come down to Daytona next year, I'll go back and look at the pictures that I did from last year, and there's stuff that's like, okay, I want to do this again. I didn't really like this, but sometimes I just don't have a choice. Like, I spent one of the practice sessions this week doing some really boring photography. It wasn't fun, but that's what my clients asked me to do.
They needed it.
They needed it. So I wasn't able to go do 10th of a second whip pans. I had to go do like boring 1/200th, cars going across the finish line so that they can create it and turn it into a hero card for this week to hand out to fans.
Right.
So there's different things that you're having to do, but I'll go back and look at what I did last year and kind of generally look at how my race went, or I really like this corner at this time of day. But there's a lot of it that you can't, even if I wanted to, I can't reproduce it because it'll never be the exact same atmospheric conditions, temperature, dew point, humidity. The cloud layer might be different. Like, we had an absolutely epic sunrise almost probably 10 years ago now for this exact race. Ooh. And we were all sitting there at the corner. Sunrise is coming. We know it's like, we're just counting down the minutes to like sunrise. And you know when you're getting ready and you see just this, it just looks cloudy, but then all of a sudden the clouds just turn purple and orange, and like the sky explodes in color. And it's so short-lived because somewhere, a million miles away, the sun has popped up underneath of that cloud layer, and it has to be perfect conditions, and it doesn't happen that often. But it could be completely cloudy, like no blue sky where you are, but suddenly somewhere down like 1,000 miles away, the sun has come up underneath of that cloud layer and is illuminating the underside of the cloud layer with all of that color. And that's what we got that at Daytona a couple years ago. And we were all like, oh, and it was,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we were all going nuts. And it was literally maybe 2 laps of the race where we got like just incredible colors. And
that's
then
awesome.
That 2 laps ended, and it went like straight back to 50 Shades of Gray, which is exactly what it was before that. And you're just hoping for that cloud layer burst, but we got it. And I could go back to that same corner for 100 years and wouldn't get it the same way again. So you can plan, you can prep, you can do all that stuff, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, like, nature and it's just going to be different. Just for whatever reason, maybe I could pull out 100 examples of stuff that will never happen again.
Right.
But it was incredible when we captured it.
Very nice. That's an awesome story. That's like one of those unique things. It's like you said, it happens every once in a blue moon. It's like when it happens, it's like, oh my God, we have to capture this right now. That's incredible. Well, that is all I have. Jamey, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Give yourself, I know you said you're coming up to Daytona, but where can listeners and viewers find you on social media and everything? And is there anything specific that you want them to keep an eye out for that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, you can find me on all social media channels at Jamey Price Photo. I have YouTube, TikTok, Threads, X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, I'm on it. I love racing. So if you're interested in photography and if you're interested in racing or car photography, grab your camera. Doesn't even matter if you don't have a camera. Grab your phone and treat your phone as a camera and bring it out to a race. Like something like the Rolex 24 is an incredible event to attend It's like $160 for a 4-day ticket, and
Wow.
it's amazing access. You can go on the grid, you can go in the paddock, you can meet the drivers, you can touch the
Very
cars
nice.
when they're getting ready to go out for the race. So you don't need credentials to make cool pictures as a car photographer. You just have to know where to go, and just when you do it, have fun. And it's a really cool community of motorsport and automotive photographers that I love it. So yeah, come hang out at a race with us.
Very nice. All right, well, yeah, thank you again for joining us today. Everybody, if you've enjoyed this interview with Jamey and you're excited about this series, please make sure to like and subscribe. Again, Jamey, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope Daytona goes well, and maybe you get another beautiful sunrise photos this year.
I'm hoping. Here's the hope.
Here's the hoping.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having
man.
me.
I really, really appreciate it. See you later.
Yep.